Hey everybody, welcome back to the Danger Planet. We're continuing our Ashes of Malifaux coverage today with the Bayou. Well, we are at it again. Who would have guessed? Today I am joined by your friend and mine, Sam. Sam, say hello to the internet.
Hello, Internet.
And one of our favorite local Riches, Rich.
Hello.
We did it. So Rich and Sam both play Bayou all over the place. Sam has been a lifelong Bayou player since the Stone Age, I think, roughly, the early 1830s. And he's an eternal spirit that haunts the Bayou and is only gremlins. Rich, slightly less so, but pretty much the same. And today we're going to talk about all of the Bayou boys. Are you excited?
Yes.
Sam?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. I also needed to be.
I was hoping you were going to say no, but it's fine.
I wasn't sure if I was also asked about my excitement level. It's quite high. I'm in fact extremely enthused.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound it.
You sound it. Yeah. The little known fact about Sam, he gets very monotone and very like flat affect when he's very excited. It's great. Okay, so let's jump right in. We're gonna start with Angler Infamous MossBeard. This boyo is a 7-stone enforcer. He's got 7 health. He's got 5s across the board except size 1 because he's a gremlin. And he's got a big crab in his beard, which is very adorable. So this boyo has hard to kill. He has show boating, which you're familiar if you've ever seen the zip model. He has chum the waters, which means tide markers that are in base contact give him a plus flip to defense rules, which is straight out of the Angler crew. He's starting to make sense, which is one of my favorite abilities that I have almost never triggered from Philip and the Nanny, which is after an enemy model with an aura 6 gains focused, it suffers 2 damage. And lastly, he has Peer Through the Fog, he ignores conceal. So this guy has a 1-inch stat 6 willpower melee, which is pretty rare, but is cool. Sharp wit, it just does slow. It doesn't do damage unless you get the ram trigger. When resolving, it does 1, 2, 3 damage and poison. But if you get a tome, it's 1, 2, 3 heal on himself, which is neat. He's got an 8-inch stat 5 willpower attack that makes the target suffer damage equal to the difference in the number of hands in this model's control hands and its maximum size harrowing tail. It's almost reminiscent of like some of Molly's stuff, except it's not irreducible. But it has a crow trigger for the target takes a melee or projectile action chosen and controlled by this model. During this action, this model is ignored when determining whether or not the target is engaged. And then a mask for move the target up to 2 inches. But like, a stat 5 willpower attack, not super good, but it does damage. And it has like a mini obey, which is neat. We've got a bonus action attack called a Cussin' and a Fussin', which is very thematic stat 5 willpower duel that gives the target distracted, and on a ram trigger, 1 friendly model within 3 inches of Mr. MossBeard here can heal 2. And then lastly, we have a tactical action called Haphazard Topography, which it needs a 6 to go off. You choose a marker in 8 inches, push that marker 3 inches in any direction, and there's a tome trigger to give enemy models within pulse 1 of that distracted, which is not flippable or defendable in any way. It just happens. And a ram trigger to drop a tide marker into base contact with Mr. MossBeard. Sam, what are your hot takes? Is this guy all his beard has him cracked up to be?
So he's kind of hard to evaluate because instead of doing one big thing, he does a lot of little things. And a lot of the things he does, though, are really good. So basically, he's very much like a model that's part of the zip theme of like take an area of the board and just make it kind of suck to be in. Like sharp wit, very common attack that just hands out slow. And so you can basically just, engage somebody, make them slow, make them distracted, make them have difficulty hitting him because he's got a tide marker and he's got a plus to def duels. I find that 7 stones is kind of a nice sweet spot for a model like this because it usually means that you can like slot him in for a minion, like an expensive minion, or like that's usually how much flex space you have in a list. I find that I'm much more excited about him in Angler than I am in Infamous. In Angler has a lot of like really scary beaters. They don't need more scary beaters. What Angler needs is models that have kind of like control abilities and abilities that that heal and that create card velocity for you. And I mean, this guy's fail case in Angler is you cheat a crappy ram out of your hand, to target Cervantes with a cussin and a fussin, because Cervantes can't gain distracted, so whatever. You relent, and then you get the ram trigger and just heal a model within 3 inches of this guy too, for the cost of a bonus action and a crappy ram, which you then cycle using showboating. I find that especially with the title version of the Clampets, you don't have that much card velocity, like card draw. You can cycle with off the path, but you can't necessarily draw. So I think he's probably going to see play there. He's reasonably durable. I mean, he doesn't look it. He's 5/5 with 7 health, but the combination of hard to kill and tide markers means that against attacks that are targeting defense, he's, it's going to at least cost your opponent some cards out of their hand. They're going to have to cheat first into him, and you do have that ability to, keep alive and then heal yourself, because Cussin and Fussin does let you heal yourself, so do survival skills. So he's just annoying enough to remove if he's in the middle of like a cluster of friendly guys that I think I'd like to take him. That said, if you're playing him in Infamous, you're going to have a hard time getting a tide markers down, because his is a non-built-in trigger that he can't stone for. And haphazard topography is generally, like, I understand the appeal of that action, but piano markers and tide markers are generally not the kind of marker that benefits from being pushed 3 inches in any direction. It's really, when I see that at action, it really makes me want to be using it on pit traps. So I can see him maybe being out of keyworded, but when we talked about the Trixie model, I don't think you necessarily need that. So all in all, I'd rate this guy probably an A in Angler, a B in Infamous. The reason he's higher in Anglers, the reasons I said, and also just because Angler lists often have a 7-stone shaped hole in them, and having a dude who just heals, does a little bit of damage, does a little bit of debuffing, does kind of a little bit of a lot of things, and is kind of frustrating to remove and to deal with, and also gives you some card velocity. It's a lot of things the crew likes.
Yeah.
So that's my take on MossBeard.
Yeah, Rich, what do you think of Mr. Beard here?
Yeah, I don't love this guy. I think that I agree with Sam. I think he does like a lot of stuff, and none of it is particularly amazing, but it's all good. I don't think I'd ever take this guy in Infamous personally. I do think that you probably take him sometimes in Angler. I would probably put this guy as a B.
Yeah, I think mixed average on B. I think we're probably going to put him right at the top of B for now.
Yeah,
I will say that if you're playing Zip 2, he looks a lot better.
I would agree that he's a lot better in Zip 2, but I think that the next model is even better in Zip 2. So.
Yeah, wild. Also, I think really importantly, this guy is definitely going to be played by Tom Hanks in the movie. Because it's clearly a castaway guy. The trigger on the on his thing is "and one from Rumson," which is just Wilson, except he's from
Rumson.
Amazing. All right, so let's flip over to the other Angler Infamous model. This guy is a minion 2, 6-stone gremlin who is size 2, which is weird. 5 stats, 5s across the board. The Swash-Buckler, he's going to buckle your swashes. He's got a defensive trigger that is not built in called Walk the Plank, where after resolving, you move the attacker up to 2 inches away. Then the attacker gains distracted 1. It's after resolving, which is really good. It means it happens whether or not this model succeeds at the duel. You just have to have a tome, which is really good. So you can cheat low tomes and then only get attacked once. He's got boarding action after a friendly terrain marker is dropped within Aura 6. This model can push 4 inches towards it, which has, I think, legs in either Infamous or Angler. Combat finesse. Melee attacks targeting this model can't cheat the duel, which is really strong. He's got showboating from Zip's crew, and he's unimpeded. He has a 1-inch stat 5 against defense melee attack. The first time each activation that this targets a model with distracted, the target gets a neg flip on the attack, and it does 2, 4, 5, which is a really good damage track. Although the stat's a little low, but if you're hitting distracted dudes, they're on neg flips, which is really good. He's got 2 triggers. One is a crow for delay, and the other one is a mask for bewilder. So you draw cards equal to the value of the target's distracted condition, and then end the target's distracted condition. So it is possible to get card draw out of this, although you'd have to have a high mask, and then they'd have to be really distracted. He has Biting Insult, which is a stat 5 willpower attack that gives out distracted. And if the target hasn't activated yet, you'll get a pass token, which is an action that I always want to use, but very rarely find myself doing it in the crews that have this. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. And that has 2 triggers itself. a mask to push the target up to 4 inches toward the terrain marker in its line of sight, which you're going to have a lot of either crew you're hiring him in, and then a tome trigger for drop a piano marker in base contact with the target. His bonus action is free loot, so take an enemy ski marker, place this model into base contact with the ski marker, remove it, and draw a card, which is pretty good. You see that on a couple other set models. All together, he's buckling swashes. This is a big gremlin pirate. He's got a big beard and a cutlass. Sam.
So I like this guy a lot more in Angler than Infamous, which is weird because Infamous is the keyword with the distraction synergy.
Yeah.
But there isn't that much distraction synergy, and he kind of builds his own synergy. Like he both hands up distracted and benefits from it. In Angler, first of all, boarding action is just going to trigger a lot more. Like I can see Angler unpacks if you're careful, where this guy just never takes a walk action and gets like halfway up the board, which is
for sure
great.
Yeah.
You also, again, more card velocity, which we talked about with showboating. So the big thing with these guys is 6 stones is a lot for a 5/5 minion with very little defensive tech in some situations. If your opponent has good guns, this guy's just going to get shot off the board. I would never hire this model against a crew that has good guns. If they don't have good guns, though, like charging a big, dangerous beater model into a Swashbuckler is, especially a minion or an enforcer who can't stone, is nail biting, because basically they get to make one attack, and maybe they'll have focus, so they'll flip 2 cards, but you're still kind of at the mercy of the top of your deck. And if the Angler player is holding a high tome, they can just no-sell the attack and push the attacker 2 inches away, distract them, basically ending their activation a lot of the time. Like they can't meaningfully attack unless they're a 2-inch engage, got into base to base, and had enough focus on them that the distracted doesn't net them out to a negative. They're basically just like can't really interact with him anymore. And then he can just take this model that is now distracted, charge it, hit it probably because it's an neg flip to resist, and make it slow as well, which means its next activation is also terrible. So Swashbucklers, it's charging them with a melee attacker is really not something you want to be doing unless you have a good idea of what the top of your deck contains, or you have like a really high stat, or you have, multiple focus stacked on the model, a 2-inch engage, and you can get to base. That's a lot of conditions.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know. Once Angel Eyes gets nerfed, I don't know how Neverborn deals with this model, but
I don't really care about biting insults triggers. I think biting insults a cool attack. It's stat 5 against willpower, so when you get the chance, take it. Like pass tokens are great. The other thing I really like about this guy in Angler is that usually Angler, if you're not with the exception of 12 cups and the brackish bullies on the original version of the Clampets, they don't really have a lot of ways to remove enemy ski markers rather than just like walking up to them and taking an interact action, which given the general high cost and value of Angler models is not something you really want to be doing. So this guy gives you some card draw and some marker removal in a keyword that doesn't have those things. So all that said, I think I'd rate this guy a B. I would not want to go above a B because he's so like bad into guns. But if your opponent doesn't have guns, this guy's an A. And like, if he doesn't have guns and there's a marker heavy pool, definitely.
Yeah, fair enough. Rich, what do you think about this guy? Is he gonna buckle your swash?
Yeah, I really like this guy. I do agree that the one thing holding it back from being an A is that it dies to a slight freeze if you can shoot at it. You can ironically mitigate that a little bit in Infamous because you have a lot of concealment auras between the skeeters and Zip. But yeah, I like this model. I think it's a good 6-point model. I'm a little surprised that boarding action isn't once per activation, to be honest. I think that there are going to be games where this thing is going to move like 12, 24 inches before it even activates, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, you're gonna see. I think you're gonna see these guys moving, not taking a lot of walk actions and moving a shit ton for sure.
Yeah, they're gonna do nothing but take charge actions, and that's fine. But yeah, I agree. I think that ultimately they're fragile if you can get around the combat finesse, and then
combat finesse is very strong defensive tech in some situations, but it's also unreliable. Like sometimes your opponent's gonna attack them and just flip like. Take a focus swing and like flip 12, like, and then you're like, okay, well I'm stat 5, I don't have any armor, I guess I'm dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I think I'm kind of sad this guy doesn't have Drum the Waters because that would improve his survivability. But at the end of the day, he is still just a 6-stone minion, which is kind of expensive for gremlins. But I think I think this guy's fine.
The other problem is that if you have any way to attack their willpower, then you can basically get around them ever getting distracted on you, and then they just die and can't hit you.
Yep, this is through. I think we're gonna put this guy in sometimes above Mr. Beard, and I think he's really.
I would
good,
put
but...
MossBeard above him.
Yeah, I think
Really?
MossBeard's above this guy.
Yeah, I think MossBeard is just more generally applicable.
Wild. I think if he didn't have the ranged weakness, we probably would see him higher, but fair enough. All right, let's move on to the next pair of keywords, Big Hat and Trixie. We have Jebediah, or as I like to call him, Jebediah, which is not canonical. I just like saying that. He's an 8-stone enforcer with 7 health, 2 armor, which is really good. He's got Bayou 2 card from Big Hat. He's got Scamper from Trixie. He gets a free pit trap after you deploy him, and he has a demise I'm done with this from Big Hat, so when he dies, you summon a Bayou Gremlin into base contact with him. On the backside of his cards, he's all pig. He's got a 0-inch melee, stat 5. Maybe not all pig, but I see 0-inch melee, and I'm like, well, he's on a robot pig, so it makes sense. It's a 2/3/4 0-inch stat 5 against defense that also does injured, which is very strong, and the injured's not conditional upon damage, and then you place anywhere in base contact with the target. He's got a mass trigger for push the target 3 inches towards a pit trap marker in its line of sight. Just remember that happens after you place, so you can sort of get out of the way, or you can screw yourself if you're not paying attention. Gatling gun is a 12-inch stat 6 against defense gun. That's a 2/4/6, which is really good as a mass trigger for ricochet, which chooses another model within 3 inches of the target, and they take 1/2/4, which can't be cheated. That's a very strong gun attack. Scoot and Boot is his first tactical action. You need a 6 for it to go off. Once per turn, target a marker, push into base contact with the target, so a marker up to 6 inches away, and then you push the target 3 inches in any direction. So, because he has pit traps, which means he's unaffected by pit traps, you can push him up the board and yeet a pit trap into somebody else without having to worry about the damage you get from it, which is really good. It also has a ram trigger to summon the next model in this keyword pair, the Habber-Dashers, with slow into base contact with the target, ignoring the hazardous terrain. And then removing the pit trap, or whatever the marker is, but presumably pit trap. He also wildly has Ride With Me, which is an amazing ability. You choose a model within 2 inches if you want. It's not mandatory because it's May. And on a 6, he pushes 5 in any direction. If you chose the model, he places it into base contact with him. And it has a crow trigger to make a pit trap, which is super good anywhere within pulse 2 of him. And I've gotten one chance to play against this guy with Rich just a short while ago, and holy butts, this guy is I really like him. Sam, am I wrong? Is he super good?
Easy A.
Yeah.
I really liked him. I think he's the best thing Bayou got in this book. So a lot of the stuff that Mawtucket does that's really strong is the very degenerate gameplay loop of stacking injured on somebody, and the hardest injured to get on somebody is always the first one because their stats are at full and you still have to hit them with an attack. And this guy, you don't have to do that. You just have to make a pit trap within 3 inches of them, which is extremely easy to do because he has a attack that makes one, or he has a tactical action that makes one on a trigger after moving 5 inches, and it's a 50 mil base within pulse 2. And then you just push it into them and they take a point of damage and an injured, and now the entire rest of your crew can stack the injured.
Yep.
I think it's really good. I think that he very easily just replaces a bushwhacker in a lot of my lists. That means I'm down 2 stones, but that's fine. I tend to play Mawtucket lists with a very small number of stones anyway. And turning the first bushwhacker into this guy instead is just the easiest decision in the universe. Not in every matchup. The reason he's not an S is because he's 5/4 defensive stats. He's a henchman. He's relying on his armor to keep him alive. And a lot of matchups, armor is not good defensive tech.
Enforcer.
So if you're playing into Angel Eyes, any purple crew, he's just gonna get killed from a million miles away.
Yep.
And you'd rather have the bushwhacker there because she has stealth. So that's why this guy's not an S. But otherwise, his summons are great. We'll talk to them when we get to them. But Trixie doesn't have a summoner yet. He just has a really hyper efficient spend of AP. He gets to make a pit trap as a bonus or gets to make a pit trap as a trigger on an action that both pushes him forward and moves Big Brain Bryn or the Little Lass forward.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I would generally not give this guy a ghillie suit so he can move Ma around unless you actually want the ghillie suit for disguise, like you're playing into Nephilim. Like, I don't think that's good enough by itself to merit the 2 points.
Yeah, but it is an option, right? You can make him size 3 so he can ferry around size 2 models, which is really strong.
Yeah, I would rather not spend more stones on this guy. He's already
There's enough
pricey.
1-stone models to ride with me to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, like you
Wild.
want Big Brain up the table, but you also don't want to spend his AP walking because he has really good AP. So yeah, I mean, I love Jebediah. Also, his gun is great. Like having that kind of follow up. The big thing with Ma lists, you need to make sure you have enough follow up after you put injured on them. It can't be just Ma. So you need like guns, like bushwhackers. Sometimes people out a keyword, a beater of some kind, and this guy's got just a good gun. So if once somebody's got that 3, that 4 injured on them, he's just shooting them with like a stat 9, stat 10 Gatling gun. That's really strong.
Yeah, which, to be clear, the Gatling gun is part of his hat, which is very big.
It is a big hat.
Yeah. Rich, what do you think? Jebediah? You've gotten to play with him once. How do you think?
Yeah, I played him once. I love this model. I think that it's very close to an auto include. Like the only thing that's keeping it from being an auto include is the fact that it is an 8. Armor 2 is easy for the crews that armor 2 is easy to get around. He just kind of dies and then you're kind of screwed. But other than that, he's amazing. His attack is good. His gun is surprisingly good. And all of his abilities are great, and it's fairly easy to summon, a Habber-Dasher every turn, which we'll get into in a second. And Ride With Me is amazing, and the fact that they put a hidden trap trigger on the Ride With Me was also kind of nutty.
Yeah, he I think might just be the best rider in Bayou. But let's talk about his summons. I think that's probably up next. So we have the Habber-Dashers. Note, they are dashing. Dasher. We did it. 3 stones if you want to hire him, but you're probably not gonna. They're defense 5, willpower 4, move 5, size 1. They have Bayou 2 card. They have Demise Cannon Fodder. So after they die, you get to draw a card. And if it hasn't activated yet, you eat one of your opponent's pass tokens, which is really, really good. It has Disguised, and it has a new ability called Mobile Head, where other friendly Big Hat and Trixie models may treat this as a scheme marker for the purposes of actions, abilities, and triggers. If it would be removed by a friendly model, this model is killed. It is important to note that does not include scoring. You can't score with these guys. That doesn't work that way, which is important because, quite frankly, this would be ridiculous if they were. But they theoretically have a melee attack. It's a 1-inch stat 3 against willpower called Fashion Sense. That does 1/2/2 with a mask trigger for slander. Target gains distracted, and if they're within aura 2 of a scheme marker, it's a 2/3/3. They have a 10-inch gun, which isn't the worst. It's a 4 against defense, 1/2/3 blast, with clever ruse for push the target 3 inches towards a pit trap marker in its line of sight, or screw the hooch, discard a random card and then draw a card, which you basically aren't ever going to declare, but maybe. For tactical actions, we have Hat Trick, so this action can't be taken the turn this model is summoned. You drop a scheme marker in base contact with the model, then this model is killed. So they can kind of scheme a little bit, just not on the turn they come out, which is actually pretty good. And then a bonus action Scuttle, remove a marker within range, push this model up to its move in any direction. So more marker removal from the Bayou. It's any marker. You can remove your enemy's markers for a free model because you summoned it, which seems pretty strong. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think you'd hire this guy. Maybe in Big Hat, because notice, you know what they're not? Is they're not insignificant.
Yeah.
There are 3 stone significant models with theoretically 3 AP. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably great summons for what's his face for Summer to do. Because especially with old Cranky's aura, they're just way better at taking shots than Bio Gremlins are because min 2s don't kill them and they have +1 defense and willpower.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a Big Hat minion, right? So Summer can summon them.
He sure can.
Summer can summon them. Wild.
In Trixie, I think that you will occasionally summon one with Jeb. You might not summon one that often because you might want to push a pit trap into somebody and then leave them standing in the pit trap. So you might not want to remove them. But they're good summons. I mean, they're not something I'd hire because for 1 stone more, you can get a test subject if you're looking for just a cheap, crappy minion who is significant and can stand near things. Test subjects have twice as much health. They have armor. They have weird synergy with with injured, where they can basically like stack it up and get really good defensive stats. So they have forage, so they also remove scheme markers, but they draw you a card when they do it. So I would not hire them over a test subject, but I would certainly summon them on occasion. I also think that like given that it's pretty easy for Jebediah to use his Scoot and Boot ability as like an extra long walk action, and instantly clear out a pit trap that's maybe in your way. Occasionally you're just gonna get these guys, and like it's great.
Yeah,
they can. The hat trick action is kind of weird. Like I get what it's doing, but they already are significant. So if you summon them, you can still not do it the turn that you create them. So I guess it lets them double interact for ensnare and stuff. So it's just they're cool. I think that they're like a value add for Jeb, but yeah, I'd put them next to him at A.
Well, I mean, I think we're mostly summoning them and not hiring them. So
yeah, but I mean,
been putting the summons.
I'm still rating them.
I mean, sure, yeah, fair enough. They're really good models. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna give this model a rating, it's definitely an A. But like, I'm never hiring this. There's very few situations where I'm hiring this in either keyword. But it's a great summon. The reason the hat trick is mostly so that you can do it while you're engaged.
Yep.
And still drop a scheme marker, right? Which is more relevant for Somner, because if you're summoning a bunch of these like around a guy and he doesn't kill them, then on their next turn they can just explode and drop a scheme marker and score you in snare or whatever.
Yeah, which is super funny, I think, to summon two of these with Sommer and then be like pop.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that these are top tier summons, but you're never gonna hire. I don't.
You know when you might hire them is again into a very melee heavy list on like raid the vaults, where you just want a ton of significant dudes who you hired to stand near things, and they're just because they're disguised. If your opponent can't shoot them, they're a huge pain in the butt to remove.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they're not armored, even though they're mechanical, which makes sense. But they got 3 health, so like you gotta put resources into killing them if you can't shoot them. So, yeah, fair enough. Let's hop over to the best December model in the game. I mean, this Bayou versatile Bashe. So this large, if you will, gator is a 10 stone model, and I'm beside myself with grief over this not being a Swamp Fiend. I wanted to play a all gator list in Neverborn, and I have now denied that. But he is defense 4, willpower 5, which is not super great defensively, but he's move 5, he's size 3. He has frostbite, so when an enemy model gains slow with an aura 4, would gain slow. Instead, they suffer 1 damage and after resolving the current action, which I don't think actually will ever happen in Bayou. Maybe. I don't know. Sam, tell me if I'm wrong. I think that's just
there's a bunch of sharp wit in the faction, so
yeah.
Also,
all right.
Also, if he attacks something twice with the tome trigger, then it makes his second.
It's like
attack
mutilate. It basically makes his slow trigger is mutilate.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't think that's ever going to happen, but maybe. We have Laugh Off, which is amazing. Ruthless, which is amazing. Terrifying 12, which is very rare in Bayou. And Unimpeded, so he ignores severe terrain, which is super good. Those are all great. And he has 14 health. Jesus, that's so much health. His jaws, as the kids say, are massive. He's a 2-inch stat 6 melee that does 3/4/5 with Tome to slow for chill, Mask to onslaught, which is amazing, and Ram tear off a bite to heal 2. If you can ever think about putting him down, if he gets to activate, he's probably going to tear off a couple bites, and that's not going to happen. Rancid Smell, he has a 4-inch aura that until the end phase enemy models within range have a negative flip to attack anything else. And then his bonus action Eternal Hunger needs a 5 to go off, 4-inch range, target a marker. If it's a corpse marker, you get plus Ram, and then you push this model 4 inches towards the target, then remove the target. If you get a Ram, it's that can be built in if you target a corpse. He heals 2 with tear off a bite. He has a mask to this model may take a bonus action, which means you can Eternal Hunger a second time. None of the Bayou upgrades attach give bonus actions, right?
Not to enforcers.
Yeah. So that literally that's the only option. You got a Tome for Icy Display, which lets him make a ice pillar marker because he's a December model, so it makes sense. And then lastly, he has a Crow to pulse out irresistible injured on enemy models within +2 of him, which is pretty good. Sam, Bashe, what do you think? I love this model. Are you ever hiring him in Bayou?
I probably am not. I think some people will. I mean, okay, so I don't need, first of all, let's set the record straight. This guy isn't even the best December model in this book.
I mean, all right, calm down. He's really good. I mean,
So I'm not going to rate him in December because I don't play the crew. I don't really know how it
we
plays.
talked a good amount about him when we did the Arcanist video. So we don't really need to talk about it.
I mean, the fundamental problem with him in Bayou is that if you're hiring a 10-stone beater, why are you not just hiring Alphonse or Antibel?
Yeah.
Like, Bayou has good out-of-keyword beater options. It's actually a strength of the faction. I mean, before the Francois got nerfed, he had arguably the best out-of-keyword 10-stone beater in the entire game. And this guy's, like, fine as a 10-stone beater. It's very rare for him to make, no, not very rare, but it's not easy for him to make 2 attacks because he doesn't have Flurry. He doesn't have, like, he has Onslaught, so I guess it's not super uncommon, but he's a big base that basically has to, like, walk up to you, or if you are conveniently positioned next to a marker, he can Eternal Hunger up to you to kill you. But he does have, like, crappy stats, and he doesn't even have Hard to Wound, so you're probably just going to be chunking him down. I mean, maybe if they have Ruthless, but, like, they could also just feed, moderates to, like, pass a Terrifying Duel if they absolutely have to. And he's going to, like, get hit a lot.
I mean, he is, but they have to min 3 him 5 times, right?
Yeah, I will say 14 health is so much health.
So much health.
It sort of reaches the point where that's actually the amount of health where it's kind of difficult to spend enough AP to just, like, kill this guy in one activation. And he does have a lot of healing. Although none of his healing stuff is built in. I would like him a lot more if he had the Terraphobi built into his jaws, because the healing would be more reliable.
Yeah.
But and frankly, Uncle Bog gets it, and his gator is even smaller than this guy. So I don't see why I don't see why what's his face Lawrence gets it and Bashe doesn't.
Yeah.
But that said, I mean, he's certainly going to do the job if you hire him to kill things. He's got the rules that prevent a big model from this getting tripped up, like Laugh Off and Unimpeded. Like, he's not going to get slowed by terrain. He's not going to get pushed out of the way. He's not going to fail Terrifying Duels with this crappy willpower. He's going to bite the hell out of you.
Yep.
I just don't know that he's better at doing it than existing options, and he is variable.
Yeah.
So I would put him at a
struggle.
C in Bayou.
Yeah, you're going to struggle a little bit to get him around the board if you're not playing against a marker crew, or have your opponent thankfully leave him a trail of bodies to just snack on.
I wouldn't say he's never high. He's low sometimes.
Yeah. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't love this model. This is I think that this thing they're doing with these 10 cost versatiles, I like this idea, but I think that especially in a few factions, there's a lot of competition, and I think that that's the problem with Bayou, and we'll talk about this later with some other ones. But I think with Bayou, that this is a really high competition spot. It's like Sam said, Bayou has a lot of really good, like 9, 10, 11, if you're taking out a keyword, cost and like beaters that do everything this guy does, and usually although nothing has this much health because it's ridiculous, but usually they have other ways that make them overall statistically more survivable. So like I don't know. I think this guy's probably a C for me. I think the only time I ever hire this guy is if Laugh Off is super relevant, or if Ruthless is super relevant, or if both are super relevant. But
yeah, I mean, he is a good Ruthless beater, but like it's not like you can't just do that anyway in Bayou for 2 stones, right?
Yeah, that's true. I'm
gonna put him at the top of C. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong on this. He's very good. He's a cool model, but I just don't think that's super.
I think he's crazy. I think he's crazy in December.
I think he's going to be hired a lot in December after the other 2 cracked models. Or cracked model. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but check out our Arcanist video if you want to see us talk about that. Let's move on to the next group of models. These are going to be 4 models in a row that all have a keyword from one of the Bayou Masters, and they are filling out the jockey keyword to almost every crew in Bayou. Except for Ankler, I think we're missing a jockey from now, but that's fine. One day they'll get theirs. So let's start off with Drumstick, who's a 6-stone enforcer, just like every other one of these models. Drumstick has 7 health. He has defense mask, defensive resistance trigger called Squeal, so after resolving he gets to move 3 inches, which is pretty strong, but it's not built in. He has Bayou 2 card because he's the big hat jockey. He flies, and he has ramming speed, so his melee actions generated by charge get +1 and get to add a suit, which makes sense because his Sharp Claws is stat 5, so it's stat 6 if you charge, and he gets to build in either the heave trigger, which is really strong, or Rampage, which is also pretty good. It pushes 5, and then enemy models, models push through this way have to take a TN13 move or take an extra damage. And it's like 2, 3, 4, so it's not great, but it's like fine. Falling Skies is a 10-inch stat 4 Shockwave, which does Shockwave 1, movement 13, duel, or take 2 damage, and you push any models damaged up to 2 inches away from the Shockwave marker dropped by this action, with a Crow trigger for Burnt to a Crisp. For scheme markers, touching a Shockwave marker or the pulse made by one are removed, which is potentially pretty useful. And then lastly, he has a bonus action, Fan on the Track. This model suffers a damage, summon a Bayou Gremlin into base contact with this model, which is hilarious, if not good. Sam?
Drumstick is, I think, of these 4, the best of them. Drumstick is one I can actually conceivably see potentially hiring. He has cost plus 1 health. He has 3 AP because he can summoning a Bayou Gremlin is absolutely worth an AP. It also kind of counteracts the victim stats he's got because of the aura from Old Frankie. And he has a 6-inch charge and then a 1-inch engage with a stat 6 attack with Heave that he built in. That's really strong.
Yeah.
Like, Heave is a very strong trigger when you can build it in, and this guy can build it in. So I think he's good. Like, I actually genuinely think if you have Old Cranky in your list, like you're playing Big Hat, he is straight up a correct hire a lot of the time. I would put him in like a B. Yeah. Not all the time, but a good percentage of the time. If you don't have Old Cranky, he's super vulnerable to getting just straight up killed.
Yeah. How do you feel about him in like a jockey list, even though that's sort of a meme?
S.
Amazing.
S in the jockey list. The jockey list is so cool. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
At some point.
Well, hey, on that note, we got to talk about the jockey bounty, which is definitely a thing that I didn't just make up right this moment on the spot, but I will guarantee to the player who plays a fully exclusively jockey crew at our upcoming grand tournament in July, that whoever does the best and has played at least 1 round of jockey, I will personally gift a copy of Bayou Bashe 2, which is not a.
Do they still get the free effigy?
Yes, they do, because Bo Peep is a henchman.
Yeah, but that's not that. I want the rules to
you
be
should allow
straightforward.
You should allow it. He's honorary. Let me put it this way: once he turns into the emissary, he is riding a thing.
All right, I will. Fine. You still can hire the effigy, but if you don't grow it, you're not eligible.
I'll also say that this guy, just before I totally let it leave off, like, I haven't mentioned Falling Skies, but it is a 10-inch range plus the 30 mil of a base, plus a 1 inch, so it's about a 12-inch range.
Yeah.
To just eat a scheme marker with no resist. That's really good. Eat multiple scheme markers potentially, probably just one.
Yeah.
But
I mean, when Ensnare's in the pool, I think you have to mention it, right?
Yeah, I mean, or just like, even if your opponent is going for like Power Ritual or Outcast, this guy can move 6 and then shoot a Falling Skies, and so you can get something 18 inches away from himself. I mean, you need a 6 or more of crows, which he doesn't build in, but like, you have that option. Yeah. And Big Hat draws a lot of cards, so yeah, I think Drumstick is the best of the 4 domains. I'd put him at a straight up B in Big Hat, probably C elsewhere.
Yeah, fair enough. And then also, just to be clear,
C elsewhere.
This model is undead because he's on a skeleton crow. Rich, what do you think? Drumstick?
I really like this model. I agree it's the best jockey, well, the best of the new jockeys.
Yeah, it's
I think Fallen Skies is incredibly good with the trigger. And I think just having a move 6 flying thing especially in big, I think that if you're playing Somner 2, I think this is kind of an auto hire, because then you're one less Bayou Gremlin you have to start the game with to guarantee that you're upgrading one every turn. But outside of that, yeah, he's probably a B.
You still want to hire a bunch of Bayou Gremlins in Summer 2 because you want upgraded models that can interact with the strat.
Yeah, I agree, but
yeah, I think you still hire 2 Bayous in Summer 2.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Cool. Let's move right along. This is the Tri-Chi jockey, Barrelby. So again, cost 6, 7 health. They all are. This guy is defense 4 and willpower 5. He moves 5. He's got armor 1. hide in the barrel, so during the start phase he can stagger to get 2 shielded. He reduces damage from poison to 0, and he has ramming speed. So again, which is the thing that all the jockeys have. They have ramming speed, they get to build in a +1.
Yeah, that's their keyword. That's their keyword ability.
It's their keyword ability. So he has staggering punch on the backside, which is a 2/3/4 that gives out staggered, not conditional upon the damage, which is really good. But it's only stat 5 and it's melee 0. But he has a mass trigger for accidental rollover, which is push the model ignoring models, and anyone that's moved through gets a damage and poison, which is potentially incredibly strong in Brewmaster. He has Barrel Blast, which is a 10-inch 5 stat movement attack that does 2 3 blast and 3 blast. Push models damaged by this action 2 inches in any direction with a ricochet trigger, which happens after the damage, so you won't get the push off of it. And then lastly, we have Asleep at the Wheel. His bonus action, he takes a damage. He pushes this model up to its move in inches, ignoring other models, markers, and terrain, and you drop a scrap in base contact with it, which is neat. It does stuff. Sam, Barrelby.
I mean, this is a meme. Like, if you want to play the Cooper Jones list that like uses scrap to make Whiskey Game in, like, you'll want this guy rather than having to like fart around with an Akaname. But like, this guy's a meme. D. Like, funny. Like, if you want to play the jockey list, obviously you hire him. But yeah, I don't think I would ever hire him outside of that.
Wild. Sam, Rich, do you agree?
Yeah, this thing's trash. It's a meme.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, look, you can't win all of the Bayou. Let's talk about Toast. Toast is the infamous jockey. He costs 6-7 health. He has armor 1. 5s across the board, which is nice. Stat 5, defense 5, willpower 5. But he's only moved 3, which is not great. Size 2. He's got armor 1, ramming speed, showboating, and you take the wheel. Once per turn after this model walks, he can pitch a card to interact, which is why his move is 3, presumably. He has a 1-inch melee that's stat 5 called Catch in the Treads. Place this model anywhere within 1 inch of the target, then the target suffers a 1/3/4, and it gains injured 1, which happens whether you damage them or not. Slander, target gains distracted. If the target's within or 2 of a ski marker, it'll do an extra damage on a mass trigger, which is nice. And then the ram trigger is choose a friendly infamous model within 2, push the chosen model 5, ignoring models, such that it moves through the target, and then they have to take a TN13 move to or take it. He's got Flamethrower, which is an okay gun attack. It's a stat 5 against move, 2 blast, 3 blast, 4 blast. Models damage gain burning 2 with the tome trigger for when resolving extra blast, and models within pulse 1 of this model suffer 1 damage. The Mr. Toast himself. And then his all-terrain turtle bonus action is take a damage, push this model 6, ignoring models and severe terrain. Anyone pushed through has to take a TN12 willpower defense duel or suffer 2 damage. So he's not completely handicapped in terms of movement. But Sam, what do you think? Toast?
So I would actually consider hiring this guy in Zip. First of all, the model absolutely whips ass. It is so cool looking. And
it's a 50 mil size 2 gremlin, which is wild. Although it does mean he
on the
can't
back
ride
with the flaming banjo is called Rictus Doofus. Canonically, that's his name.
Yeah.
I would hire this guy.
It's a Mad Max reference.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Thank you, Rich.
You're welcome, Sam.
I would hire this guy on the basis that he has a bonus action with no TN that just pushes him 6 inches, ignoring models in severe terrain, which is already really good. It's good when, with Hovering Flame, which other models in this book that we will not be discussing at this time have. It's good when he does it. It gets him out of engagement. It gets him in position to do charges. He's obviously very slow, but from experience, when you have this 6-inch push, I play Cervantes a lot. He also has a 3-inch movement, and you can get around that, especially since he's size 2, so you can actually carry him around with a skeeter, which is really what makes him something I would conceivably try. If he was size 3 and a skeeter couldn't carry him around, I just wouldn't do it. But you can. And his melee attack is good. It's when you charge, and you should always be able to charge because all-terrain turtle can set it up. It's a stat 6 that does injured every time. That's pretty solid, and you're probably going to build in slander, so it's a stat 6 that always inflicts injured and distracted. That's good. That's a good attack. So yeah, I don't hate him. I think that he gives you some cool interaction ability. I think it's neat to be able to do things like push 6 inches, then walk 3 inches and discard a card to vote, and then vote with your second AP. That's 2 votes from pretty long distance away. So yeah, I would hire Toast. I'd put him at a sometimes higher, maybe a high C, low B.
Yeah. Rich, what do you think? Toast?
I don't love this model. He gives me big Mom, can we have Vernon and Wells? No, we have Vernon and Wells at home vibe. Which
Amazing.
Also is annoyingly a size 2 50 mil, and I hate that. But yeah, I don't know. Like the bonus action is the best thing on his card. I think that like that's what saves him from being unplayable garbage.
Yeah.
Weirdly,
it doesn't ignore pianos, which is
I'm gonna hot take here. This guy's way better than Vernon and Wells, like way better.
Okay. All right. You're allowed to say ridiculous things.
He's 2 stones cheaper. His bonus action move is more reliable and faster, and he has an attack that doesn't like completely suck.
Amazing.
Anyway, I think he's a C. I think he's probably like a pretty good pick in Infamous because you can skeeter him about. And then yeah, he is pretty good because he can do the weird double vote thing. So I think he's a C. Maybe high C. I don't think he makes it an A for me. That seems a little excessive.
That may be me just tilting it over because I love the model so much. So
I
think
do
high C
love
is
the
probably
model.
fair.
I will say I am unclear who Toast is, whether it's the gremlin
Toast
or
is
the
is
turtle.
the machine.
It's the turtle. Yeah, it's the turtle.
But it's not alive though. It's not
undead.
sentient. It's machined.
It's
I don't know.
undead.
All right, it's undead.
It's undead.
I guess it's not though. It wasn't reanimated. Like,
it literally
bird-
has the undead tag.
No, I know it had, but that's because it's a skeleton. But it cannot. Whatever. Look, get in the comments below and let us know. It's in the book that you should totally buy with our affiliate link. Wink, wink. Which I did actually wink. I swear, you just couldn't see it. Let's talk the last jockey, Squish and Squash, which is canonically, I think, the best jockey because holy crap, this lady's got 2 toads strapped to her feet. That's wild. This is the kin jockey. 6 cost, 7 health, 5/5, 6 movement, which is pretty good. It's got flinch from kin, stampede, with like Bo Peep has, so after it ends a charge, in base contact with any models, it can suffer damage to make every enemy model in base contact suffer damage. So you can use him for your Wong unpacks, maybe, if you want to hire him for 7 instead of Bo Peep, which you don't. Oh, no, it's versatile.
It's a versatile.
So, never mind, 6. Yeah, you can do it. So that's what we got. We got Lickety Split, which is the melee attack, stat 5 against defense. Push either this model or the target up to 2 inches in any direction, and it does 2, 3, 4. It has a tome trigger for Kissed by a Prince. When resolving, the target suffers no damage and instead heals 2. And then Rampage, which we've already talked about. Or you push 5, TN13 move duel, or suffer 1 damage for anyone moving through, which is pretty good. Menacing Croak, which is an ability we see on a couple other Bayou models, which is a stat 5, you need a 12 for it to go off. Pulse 6, enemy models have to take a TN14 willpower duel or gain a distracted, but it has a built-in swift action to take it again, which is kind of cool. Better, I think, more likely to be better than other Menacing Croaks. And then Leapfrog is its bonus. Suffer damage, place this model into base contact with another friendly jockey or kin model within range, and then this model may take this action again, which is hilarious. I don't know, though, Sam, please tell me.
This model is very bad. I'm sorry. This is very bad. This is a D.
It's so funny. I'm
funny.
buying this model. It will be the only jockey I build in paint. And
this model just doesn't
the
do
Neverborn
anything.
one.
Like, there's no text on this card. Move on.
Wild. Rich, what do you think? Squish and Squash?
This is one of my favorite models just because this character is so cool. But yeah, this card is absolute dog water. Like, what is this even supposed to do? Why is it kin? What on this card says, yeah, kin, I want that? What, like, other than being bad? Like, what does it do? I don't get it.
I kind of wish its bonus action let you move that jockey or kin, because then I think it might be possibly hireable sometimes. But yeah, I don't know, man. Look, sometimes
maybe if the bonus action wasn't like a keyword lock, so you could just like, I don't know, leapfrog it 7 times so it's dead, and then we move on with our lives.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you should only be able to leapfrog it 7 times and then it dies. But it gets to bring 6 other models, one hop each with it.
Sure.
You know, who can say? Thematically, great. Probably don't get this, but it's going to be in a box with the other ones, so you'll probably own it. That's what I got. Let's talk the kin and Sui/Pig models, which are starting off with Mr. Hog-Oil Salesman, which is by far the less good thematic one, and this guy's thematically friggin' awesome. But he's a 7-stone enforcer with 7 health. He has flinch from kin. He has Hog-Oil Ointment, which is when a friendly model with an aura 6 heals, That model gains shielded, but only once per activation. He is on the move, so when he starts his activation, he gets to move 3, ignoring models. He's got ramming speed, so melee actions generated with a charge get +1 in a suit, because he's basically a jockey, I guess. And then he's unimpeded, because he's on a large pig, even though he's got all those big crates full of hog oil. He's got headbutt for his melee attack, which is a 0-inch stat 5 against defense that does 1/3/4 with a ram for collision, so pulse out of damage to enemy models and the target, which is actually pretty ballin'. And then mask for stickum, beast only. Target takes a non-bonus action chosen and controlled by this model. Importantly noting, it does not say that does not attach upgrades or name a model, which means I'm pretty sure you can make the swine mom make piggies. Yeah, that's the thing, or is that a bonus?
It's not a bonus. It also doesn't say non-leader.
Yeah, the big thing on Stickum, which is on all the other models with Stickum, it does not say non-leader.
Yeah, which means Ulix too. We did it. He has a bonus action attack called Sales Pitch, which is possibly one of the most thematically awesome attacks, period. It's stat 5 against willpower enemy only. This model and the target both discard the top card of their fate deck. If this model discarded higher, draw it. If the target discarded higher, draw that card. And this model, they draw that card, and this model gets a Soul Stone. So it's probably good. I don't know, but it has Draw Out Secrets, which is neat. And then lastly is tactical action. I need a volunteer. Once per turn, other model only push this model into base contact with the target, which has to be within 6 inches, and then the target either heals 1 or ends a condition. So possibly good or good offensively or not. And it has a ram trigger for shielded, a mask trigger to heal the target 1, 2, 3, and a tome trigger to give the target fast and burning, which is like burn out but burny-er, and it's spiced coffee. We did it. Sam, Hog-Oil Salesman. Are you buying this guy's hog oil?
Not a chance. This model is dog water.
It's so thematically cool. What are you talking about?
It's so expensive. It is. Its defensive stats are so bad.
I don't think I mentioned. I think I glossed over it as like a mental defense, but its defense and willpower are both 4, which is bad.
Yeah.
It's
its
okay.
defense and
It
willpower are
has
both 4 on a
flinch.
50 mil.
That's flinch.
Okay, that's fine. It's still gonna die instantly. It's really bad. It has like no synergy with kin at all. Like it feels like they forgot that kin was a keyword.
It's on the card.
Reasonably makes sense
After they gave it
basically
flinch, they're
isn't
like, that's
a
it, we're
keyword.
done.
Like
Yeah.
I'm saying since the kin nerfs in 2022, it basically isn't a keyword. So
Yeah.
like I forgive them for not remembering that the
All
keyword
right.
exists. But there's like nothing
Calm
here
down.
that works with kin. The stuff that works with Sui isn't that strong.
You're silly.
It's just straight up worse than a Hog Whisperer if you want to do stickum stuff. It exacerbates a lot of the existing problems with the pig. Like it has big TNs, big 50 mil base. It doesn't do anything. This
All right.
model is so bad. I don't think I would hire this guy at 5 stones.
Amazing. Rich, do you agree with this prognosis?
I mean, at 5 stones, okay, but yeah, no, I like the only thing that's of any relevance is that it can build in the mask for Stickum, but like so can Hog Whisperers because they have tools for the job.
Like a real rule.
Like yeah, and like I guess it's cute that this is like the first in keyword model that has like a way to give your own stuff burning, but it also requires a tome that's not built in. And also, yeah, this model is absolute dog water, and it's way too expensive, and it dies to a swift breeze and does absolutely nothing.
All right. Hear me out though. This is the second best model in the game with shelves in it.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that.
No, it definitely is. There's only one other one, and it's Rich Apple Hackle.
Nope. Sly 6 shots.
Sly has shelves.
Oh shit! It's the third best model with shelves in it.
Yeah.
Never mind. You're right. I agree.
Yeah,
D-tier
Sly is
higher.
actually better than this guy. I'm a Sly defender. I recognize that most people hate him, but you got to admit Sly is better than this guy. This guy is trash.
Oh yeah,
Right,
Sly's way better than this
Let's
guy.
talk about possibly the best model in the book, and I only mean that because he's twirling a swine, the Swine Twirler. So this guy is a minion 2, 6 stone, 6 health, defense 6, which is really good, willpower 4, move 5, minion in kin and Sui. So he's not a pig, so he doesn't get the pig buffs. But he has diversion, so enemy models within Aura 4 can't take bonus actions, which is really good. He's got gamble at the start phase of turn 1. He gets to drop an enemy ski marker anywhere on the table, which I don't think is useful. Maybe I'm wrong. Right this way, friendly models that start a move within 6 inches can move through other models, which is really, really strong. and then solicitation after another friendly kin or beast ends a walk within or a 6. This model may push 5 towards the model after the action resolves, which is also pretty good. He's got hit with swine because his weapon is amazing. Stat 5 against defense. Target is pushed 2 inches in any direction and then suffers 2/2/3 with the mask for pulled here or there, so you can push that model or this model 3 inches, and a crow for unintelligible screaming. This model may take the annoying action we'll get to in a second. He's got whacked piglet, which is the funniest ranged weapon. It's an 8-inch, stat 6 against defense, which is quite good. It ignores line of sight and friendly fire, but if it does so, it's -2 penalty to its stat, so it'll be stat 4 instead, and the target suffers 2/2/3 blast with a tome for burning, which is built in, which is also incredibly relevant. Take by the hand, which is his bonus action. You've seen it on a couple other models, mostly the Dead Doxies from Seamus, which is push the target 3 inches in any direction, then push this model up to 3 inches towards it, which needs a 6. It's a willpower attack, so you can use it on enemy models, but usually use it for unpacky stuff. And then annoying, his tactical action that he can trigger off of his melee attack is a 2-inch aura, that you need a 5 for it to go off, and until the end phase, after an enemy model within range declares a tactical action other than walk or charge, it gains distract. Sam, you can't tell me that this model is not the coolest model that exists, period.
So I really did not like this card when I first saw it, and like it's really starting to grow on me a bit.
Yeah.
Like 6 stones is a little expensive.
Yep,
for this stuff, but if your opponent doesn't have a lot of willpower attacks and is having to hit your defense, like defense 6 is reasonable, and he doesn't really have to be close to the action. So what Gamble's for, by the way, is either the stuff that summons piglets in Sui eats scheme markers to do so. So it doesn't really matter that it's an enemy scheme marker, but it does matter that it's a scheme marker that you get without having to spend an AP.
It matters for Sammy.
Yes, that's the other thing. It matters for Sammy. This is actually like legitimately something you would hire alongside Sammy to just start getting those turn 1. It also, if one of the things that a lot of Ulix players do, because Ulix crews are really card hungry, is hire a Bayou Smuggler, and this guy creates a scheme marker that the Bayou Smuggler gets to remove, which both gives it an extra card draw because of carry the loot, but also just like means you save an AP on having to get those out. Right this way matters. Like it really matters.
Yeah.
It's
right this way is
difficult
super
to unpack.
good.
Diversion is a super strong ability.
Yeah, it is.
I think once this guy's sort of take by the hand is also really good, especially since you get an extra stickum. Although he can't build it in, and the TN is enough that like, it sort of exacerbates the problem the crew already has with TNs. The big problem with this guy is that like Ulix crews are already kind of tight on support staff because you really want the Slop Hauler, you really want a Hog Whisperer. If you're hiring this guy, it's encouraging you to take a smuggler as well, and now you're spending a lot of stones on support staff.
But Samuel, look at his dapper bow tie.
I do think this guy does enough stuff that I would be willing to consider him, but if my opponent is playing a crew that's heavy on willpower attacks, like Dreamer, it's never. He just dies immediately. Like Dreamer just kills this model like instantly.
I'm putting him in B, and I won't be talked out of it. Rich?
I would put him in C.
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't Dreamer just kill most of Sui like instantly?
No, because they have really, really fat like health bars, and Dreamer's attacks have fairly low willpower. Like a lot of the stuff in Dreamer that hits willpower is like 2, 3, 4s.
All right, Rich.
I really like this model. I think this model solves like a big problem that Ulix 2 has, and that's just that there's a lot of big size 3 50 mil models, and you just end up getting in your own way a lot. So I think that like especially like on a corner deployment or like on like a tight deployment, I think that this guy does something that's very important that keywords like really needs.
Especially for people who are new to that keyword and have blocking and tackling issues, or on tight boards where you just don't have the option. I think that for that alone.
I don't really. Kin. Okay. Notwithstanding that Kin is in just like a garbage position right now, I don't really think this thing does super too much for Kin other than like giving Sammy a free piglet turn 1. But I think for Ulix, I probably always want one of these. I don't know what I cut for it, but I feel like I probably always want it. So like overall, I think that puts it at a B.
I'm putting it in B. Rich said B. We're going B. Dude, he's twirling a swine. That's so cool. All right. That's what I got. Maybe Sam's probably right. Maybe you don't hire this, but I really like him, and Rich likes him enough. We're calling it. Hoochdini. We're gonna go to the last keyword pair in Bayou, which is Tri-Chi and Whizbang, Mr. Brewmaster and Mr. Wong. The Great Hoochdini is a 7-stone enforcer with 8 health. He has 5 defense, 6 willpower. He moves 5, and he's got butterfly jump, which is one of the best defensive abilities in the game. He's also evasive, which is important because he's a Wong model. He has magical influence, so after this model flips a card in a duel, it can pitch a glowy token to add a suit, which is really, really good. He's got total power. When this model takes an action, it can pitch a glowy token to treat the action as having a +4 inch range, and when this model would suffer damage from poison, it instead gains a glowy token. The thing that's missing off of this model, really importantly, is the ability to just get glowy tokens when he suffers friendly damage and fast. So that's maybe problematic, but he's got some, he's got some ways to get it. He does not have a melee attack, so he has no melee range. He's got an 8-inch stat 5 against defense attack. That's not a gun. Its target suffers 1 blast, 3 blast, 3 blast. Models damaged by this action gain 2 poison. He has got a blaze trigger for giving them burning as well. He's got a crow trigger to give the target distracted and push it 2 inches. And on mask against enemies, he can place the target within 4 of its current location. He's got the bonus action Prestidigitation, which is a shockwave action that needs a 6 to go off. But he may center the shockwave on Hopscotch if you've hired that model and it's within range. And if you do so, it increases the TN of any generated willpower duels by 2. Otherwise, it's willpower 13 with shockwave 2, which is actually pretty strong, especially if it's off of 50 mil. For distracted 1, the built-in trigger magical feedback gives Hoochdini a glowy token, and then he has a crow if you don't want to do that. To give models that fail to resist the shockwave also poison. And then lastly, he has I Need a Volunteer, his tactical action, which needs a 6. Push this model into base contact with the target. It can heal 1 or end a condition. But he has a Tome for gain a glowy token. He has a Mask for target heals 1, 2, 3. And he's got a Crow for the target gains focused and poison, which is really, really good. And also, strangely, another coffee-based trigger off of I Need a Volunteer, which is apparently something they were looking into. So, Sam, you're a Wong expert. And I don't think you've played Brewmaster in a while, but what do you think? Hoochdini?
I really like Hoochdini. So, you're right about glowy being a little bit tricky to stack on him, but he doesn't need that much glowy. He gets 1 from Prestidigitation as long as he hits his TN.
Yep.
He gets 2 from Wong's bonus action, and 3 is enough glowy to last him for a little while. And the thing is, though, it is in Whizbang, it's actually kind of challenging to put poison on him.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of good ways to do that, so that's sort of something to think about. But you don't need that much glowy. The big thing you're taking him for is 10-inch I Need a Volunteer. I Need a Volunteer at 10 inches is screwy as an ability. It's just push way across the board from downtown, and you can build in the trigger and pick 2 effects from a menu of 5. Now, granted, condition removal or heal 1 always has to be one of your choices, but 2 effects from a menu of 5, and these are all good effects. These are all things you want to be doing in Whizbang. Yeah. It's good. That is genuinely just a really strong action. Sometimes you're going to Ale Drench blast someone from 12 inches away, but I think pretty rarely because it's stat 5. He's also kind of really difficult to do it to remove because with butterfly jump,
8 health and butterfly jump is
and willpower 6. He's he does things.
He's a froggy boy.
In Brewmaster, he has a much easier time getting glowy because of the poison stuff, but that stuff he does is less useful in Brewmaster than it does in Wong, so I don't know that I'd hire him in Brewmaster, although I think Brewmaster's not a great spot right now. But yeah, this guy's just going to be out there, dropping shockwaves, very occasionally distracting people, but mostly just using that to pump his glowy tokens. But he's just going to be scooting around the table, giving your models huge buffs, having a 10-inch push for a single AP. And then occasionally shooting somebody with his kind of silly gun. He's good, though. I would put him in, high B. The only real challenge is, again, Wong lists are kind of tight. If you're playing this guy, you're probably dropping a Swine Cursed for him. Swine Cursed are really good, so you got to really think about that. But he does seem like he kind of does a lot of cool things for 7 stones. And, again, I just want to reiterate, I need a volunteer to push 10 inches across the board and, give Alphonse a focus and end the like slow or stunned that someone's inflicted on him is just a stupid strong play.
Yeah. Rich, what do you think? Hoochdini?
I love this model. I think this model is really good. I think he does a lot for 7.
Yeah.
I think he's good in both keywords. I do agree that Brewmaster is in a weird spot right now, but I think this guy's still good in Brewy. I think in Brewy you're mostly just like whacking your own dudes to stack poison, and like you can prestidigitation your Moon Shinobis and distract them, which is hilarious. So like yeah, and yeah, a 10-inch push, even if it didn't have any effect, would be great. And then you also get like multiple effects that are all really good.
Yeah. So where do you think exactly we're putting him? Above, below?
Who's currently in B?
So we have MossBeard, the Swashbuckler, Drumstick, and Swine Twirler.
I would put him just below MossBeard.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, this guy seems rad, and much like every other Bayou model, his story's hilarious. He's tripping on frog juice. It's amazing. And that brings us to our last Bayou model, a 7-cost enforcer, Hopscotch, the Froggo with the Mago. Mosto? Doggo? I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll edit this out in post. He's a 7-stone, 8 health enforcer, beast, which is possibly relevant. I don't know. He's got 5 defense, 5 willpower, and 5 movement. Size 3, though, on a 50 mil, unlike Hopscotch, who's size 2. He's hard to wound. He's got magical influence, so after he flips a card, he can pitch a glowy token out suits. Mithridatism. He follows Mithras. What?
There's a Persian king called Mithridates who, according to like legend, would swallow small doses of poison and basically made himself immune to poison.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah, Mithridatism. That makes sense. I'd like to think that he just likes Jesus. I mean, Mithras. Different people.
Yeah, Mithridatism is the practice of, it's like the immunity to iocane powder thing.
Amazing.
It's the practice of protecting yourself against poison by like self-administering non-lethal amounts.
Yeah, so when this model would suffer damage from a shockwave, it can instead gain poison or a glowy token, which is pretty rad because he's immune to iocane powder. He's got perverse metabolism, so he does the heal thing for McMorning, which is funny, and he's also slippery because he's a toad, so he's never engaged. So he and models attacking him can only attack from 0 inches for melee attacks, which is wild. So, oh no, I'm sorry. Well, he only has a 0-inch melee, but the model can only be engaged or targeted by melee actions for models in base contact with it. It doesn't work vice versa. They just always give those models 0-inch melees, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has Bite, which is a stat 5 against defense, which makes me a little sad. 2, 3, 4. It's got the Crow trigger for undersea toxins, to have injured and poison, which is pretty good. Sticky Tongue is a 4-inch attack that's stat 5 against move. Target a model with lower size than this model, so it can only hit size 2 and 1 and 0. The target suffers 1 damage and is placed into base contact with this model. Triggers it has are Bad Trip, so models within Aura 3 of the target suffer 1 damage, Mask for reposition, and Ram for Taste the Rainbow. Pitch a glowy token from the target, and this model gains a glowy token, and the target heals 1, which is very funny. And lastly, he has Creep Along, so he gets to push towards models, friendly models in his, with his move, and a Crow for Drinking problem where this model gains 2 poison. Sam, Hopscotch. Are you hopping the scotch?
So I just want to preface this by saying, like, once again, you're dropping a Swine Curse for this guy, and Swine Curse are really strong. That said, I kind of like this guy.
You can keep in mind, you can center prestidigitation on this with.
He's immune to like a kind of a weirdly long list of things. He's immune to shockwaves, blasts, pulses, poison, melee attacks from more than 0 inches away.
Non-focused attacks
like
are gonna put him
he has hard to wound.
Yeah.
Like he's just kind of like a weirdly long list of things that just don't bother this model. He's got a lot of health and hard to wound and self-healing. So he's kind of like weirdly durable despite not having the ability to pitch glowy for damage reduction. Creep Along's always great. He will never, unlike Hoochdini, this guy's never gonna have a problem getting lots of poison, and he's never gonna have a problem getting lots of glowy. Because he has the he gets it from being pulsed on. He doesn't even need to take the damage. That said, it does feel like he's a little low impact. Like his melee attack is not good. You're taking him basically for Sticky Tongue. Sticky Tongue is a cool attack. It does a lot of interesting things. It's kind of short ranged. there will also be situations where you're like, ooh, I could like cleverly reposition this guy a little bit, but I wish I just had a Swine Curse so I could just kill him.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
and
fair point.
he also can't use, unless you want to give him a ghillie suit, which I don't really want to do, he can't use Sticky Tongue to like grab, like slurp up Swine Cursed. Which is like what I think would be a cool use case for him is like
Are Swine Curse size 3?
Yeah, they are.
Are they really?
Yeah, they are. They're
Yeah,
beefy.
they are.
They're beefy boys.
Wild.
So, like you could, so like you have, you could do stuff like with that if you wanted to give him a ghillie suit, but that's like a lot of stones. So I don't know. It's hard to evaluate this guy without seeing him. I think that it really depends on how good Sticky Tongue is, and if there's a bunch of like interesting sort of positional schemes in the pool, and Sticky Tongue can really like screw somebody over, then I think you have some good play here. Otherwise, it's kind of like I'm kind of jumping through a lot of hoops to not just kill somebody with a Swine Curse. So I would put this guy below Hoochdini because he doesn't have like a clear, like, this is a strong thing this model does. But I'd still probably put him somewhere in B. And also, they're cool together. Although it does bother me that there's no synergy between the two of them except for prestidigitation. Like, if there was some way that Hopscotch could give Hoochdini poison, I would feel much better about hiring the pair of them.
I would also be super jazzed if you could just center it on Hopscotch regardless, but that would probably be fucking cracked. So
like he does have bite that can give poison on a trigger, but it's a 2/3/4 and it also inflicts injured. So I'm not really interested in like biting Hoochdini for 2 damage with Undersea Toxins to give him 1 glowy later in the turn.
Yeah.
So like if this guy had like an attack that was just like spit poison or something, and it was like deal inflict 2 poison on the target, I would feel a lot better about hiring him and Hoochdini. But without that, I feel like Hoochdini has a little bit of a harder time getting glowy, and Hopscotch just doesn't seem like he does a lot.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'd put him maybe high C. I'm talking myself out of it the more. I love the model. I love the concept.
I have him right above Swine Curse because the model's fucking wild. Rich, what do you think? Hopscotch? Do you hop this scotch?
I don't love this model. It's got a lot, like the front of its card is amazing, and like I love everything on the front of its card, and then the back of the card just super underwhelms me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really wish that Sticky Tongue could I wish he was either size 4 or Sticky Tongue could hit same size models, because I think that would really make him like more. I think I would be more interested in him. I also think they should have done like some kind of like Calypso Bebe thing where like if you hire them both you get a discount or something. That would have been cool. But
like they each cost 1 less.
They should have. I think for sure they should have. They should have made them like 12 stones, so you could at least buy the upgrade to put ghillie suit on him.
Yeah, but like as is, I this is a C for me. I don't really think I ever hire this dude.
I jumped him down to the top of C. I'm right above Toast. So
just like the things he does best, Bayou has like other stuff that just does that.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's just every time you're trying to hire a 7-stone model in Whizbang that's not a Swine Cursed, you're like, why am I not hiring a Swine Cursed? Those are some of literally some of the best 7-stone models in the game.
Yeah,
he also does almost nothing in Tri-Chi other than just you get to stack a bunch of poison on him, so he just becomes even harder to kill.
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, you've heard it here first, folks. This is the Bayou breakdown for all of the Ashes of Malifaux models. No windmill slam out of keyword hires, but Jebediah is the clear winner in Bayou. And there's a bunch of other cool models. Plus, you're gonna be able to field an entirely jockey crew if you want to do that. Again, bounty at the GT. It's a thing. You could claim it.
I do feel like this is very much a rich get richer situation, because not only is Jebediah the best thing in the book, he's probably better in Trixie than he is in Big Hat. So he's just taking the keyword that is already the best keyword in the faction and just making it better. Yeah. Which I'm happy with. I like playing Montucket.
Problem solved. All they have to do is nerf the shit out of Trixie, because fuck that keyword. It's fine. I don't hate playing against Montucket. Shout out to Angel, shout out to Sam, shout out to Doug, shout out to Rich, shout out to everybody who plays Kit Trixie against me. I hate it.
I think Hoochdini is good enough that I will try it though, because the 10-inch push into 2 effects is just such a strong effect.
Yeah. I feel like there's no world that I don't buy half of these models just to paint them, right? They're just really cool.
Oh, I'm painting everything. I'm even painting the horrible Hog-Oil Salesman.
Amazing. Can't wait. So thanks for listening. Check out our Discord for sure. Check out our merch store, our affiliate links, all that good jazz. You should be listening to the Danger Planet. We say stuff. That's what I got. It's been a long weekend. This is the 6th of these videos I've recorded. I got 2 left tonight. Wish me luck. Hopefully I'm not dead by the time this video airs. Thank you for coming, Rich and Sam. You guys are the best. Say goodbye to the internet.
Bye, internet.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Danger Planet out. By the
All
Hog-Oil
right, guys.
Salesman.
Thanks a lot.